All right. Good morning to those of you who might be here. A couple minutes late this morning. I apologize. I was having coffee with my niece. So, um, last week we were talking about doors, and if you weren't here, I'll just briefly kind of review. Uh, One of the users from the Cabinet Vision eSupport forums was on stream with me. Really, I was just kind of observing. And he was showing us how to set up doors and write some UCS to oversize the doors and just do a couple of different things, basically. And at the end of the stream, there were some questions from a couple of people, myself included. And one of the things that I brought up or asked about, I guess, was, or maybe I didn't even ask about this. Maybe I just thought about it and somebody else did. But was basically, how do you translate this to the CNC? You know, if you need your door to be 12 inches by 12 inches, for example, and you've got it oversizing by a quarter in either direction, so that we're trimming by an eighth inch all the way around. How do you get this set up on your CNC correctly? Do you offset the machine? Do you create a separate post that's modified that shifts the origin of the part? How do you go about doing that? And probably the simplest way, I think, is probably what David was showing us, which was have the machine set up in such a way that you can easily turn on your offsets so that when you do place your oversized doors, the 0, 0 reference is shifted. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. Honestly, I want to start by saying that we all have procedures that we follow, and well defined workflows are really important, in my opinion. And so, establishing a workflow that basically amounts to making the process fairly foolproof, even if it might be low tech or you know something that could ultimately be forgotten or messed up. That works because you build the procedure and you have people who are good good quality, high quality workers with good attention to detail, and they're not going to ruin a bunch of doors for you, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I got to thinking about it, and I was wondering, ultimately, is there a different way to go about doing that? Can we do this in such a way that doesn't require offsetting the machine, that doesn't require people to remember things? Can we do this in such a way that doesn't require a modified post? And I don't really know if it's possible. First of all, I haven't really messed with doors in this way very much at all. And so for me, this is sort of uncharted territory, and I'm kind of exploring this streaming format a little bit in general to see like um what's going to work out best, because a lot of this has never really been like a for-profit type thing. It's been for a lot of different reasons. The primary reason was to try to bridge the gap for some people as they tried to step from, draw walls and put cabinets into a room as like the first steps you learn to writing ECS or I feel like there's a lot of missing steps in between, and I'll never be able to cover them all. But the idea was to try to bridge that gap at least a little bit. And while I enjoy that, I also, just to be really frank, it can be stressful, and I want this to be something that I can sustain because I do enjoy doing this, but I'm trying to find a way to make this really, fulfilling for me and fun for me while also serving a purpose. And so, what I'm trying to do with this stream today is explore a little bit of a different sort of format where I have the question, can I do this? Is this possible? What would be required, or what about the software is going to prevent me from being able to do what I want to do here? And this could very easily end with a possible program issue or an idea request or anything of that nature. And I find that a lot of times the ideas that people present, they do come from like just requests made from people they work with or from their shop or whatever. But I also find that a lot of the ideas come from people trying to do something. Can I make this do this? And you might have 9 out of the 10 steps already there in Cabinet Vision, and all you really need is that 10th step. And that 10th step could be submitted as an idea, or that 10th step could actually just be a possible program issue that should have been there but isn't. So I don't know that any idea requests or program issue reports will come from this, but maybe it will. And if they do and something gets changed, then there's value in doing this. And so ultimately, I'm curious about something. I think I know how to make it happen. I'm going to try to do it the way I know how. And we're really just going to kind of on stream today walk through that. And I'm going to explain a lot of my thought process. And we'll see how this goes. If it turns out to be a kind of an unpopular or undesired format, I don't know, we'll either find something else to do or stop streaming altogether. We'll see. So, I have set up a couple of things, not much, but a couple of things, and I'm not actually going to be able to simulate because my parts machine, frankly, doesn't exist. It's a fake parts machine that I have set up in my S2M center here. So normally we don't really deal with any need for outputting just parts, to be completely honest. It's not something I totally agree with. Not outputting parts. I think that we should be able to output parts. It's great for recuts and things of that nature. I'm just saying that at my workplace, we don't really, and I'm not sure that that's the right decision, but it is what it is. And so I have my system to work with, and that's what we're going to work within. So what I can do is I can generate some code that would not work on a CNC, but the information that I need to know about to determine whether or not this is working should be there. And so anyhow, so basically I've got these doors, and if you were here for the stream last week, we did have some user created standards that we created. And I've tried to basically duplicate this, but I did rewrite them for what I was trying to do for the most part. This one here is a direct copy paste from what happened last stream, but the other one that I was showing just a moment ago is mine. But really, they amount to about the same thing. I've just condensed and eliminated a lot of the things that were being shown last week, like the door bumpers and stuff like that. I'm not trying to focus on that for this. If the proof of concept works out with what I'm trying to do, then the next steps would be to incorporate those other things and also test those to make sure everything is working. But for now, we're going to simplify this. And my focus is going to be on trying to get the door slab, the fake door slab, if you will, that's generated by creating a slab object that can receive door objects, door operations, I'm sorry. I'm trying to see if I can get that to oversize itself and change the location of the route so that it's not on the perimeter of the door, it's actually inset by the amount that we oversize the door by. Mouthful. So I've got my, if ACC UCS test does not equal 1 exit here, which is gonna, prevent me from doing this to all of the things I don't want to do it to. I'm notorious for tinkering in the software and then getting distracted and then sending an update out to the team, and then we all wonder why something is behaving a certain strange way. And Generally, it's harmless when I let it happen, but still, good idea to always do this. Get into the habit of creating a filter, sort of like an on-off switch that will allow these testing UCSs to even work. So this UCS is very, very simple. I am adding the SD slab part. Before, when we were streaming last week, we only had the door and the drawer part. I think we're going to need to add the SD slab part to do what I'm trying to do here. But again, we're just kind of like throwing darts to see if any of this will work. Anyway, so I'm adding a route to the door, and the route is going to be the dimensions of the door minus minus 1/8 of an inch. And actually, I don't want to change the DZ. And so after I've got this route being added, I've defined, you know, my width, my height, and my depth, and the AX, AY, AZ, my rotation of the operation, as well as the placement, which instead of being at 0, 0, because I want to route on the outside of the door, this is going to be up by an eighth. Actually, it should be a 16th. And over by a 16th and up by a 16th. So the X would be 1/16 of an inch and the Y would be 1/16 of an inch. I think that's right. Anyway, so here's the route that I'm adding, and then here are the oversized parameters for my door slab that I'm trying to increase the size of my door. You know what? I should have just written all this at once, because writing a little bit of this beforehand and then going back is just making this confusing for me. So I had this right originally at 1/8 because I am oversizing the door actually by 1/4 inch in height and 1/4 inch in width, because, you know, 1 and 3 would be the top and the bottom of the door, and I'm making the top and the bottom of the door each 1/8 of an inch larger. So I had this right originally with the X and the Y at 1/8 inch. So this, I think, is the wrong value though. This is where I want to go by minus 1/4 inch. So I'm actually going to split this into 2 different types of doors. I kind of want to see, I want to know whether or not I can actually visually see the route on the slab door before I take it to the S2M center, because as I said before, I don't really have the ability to simulate this very well. So I'm trying to look for ways to check my work as I go through this. And I think if I make this into just like a typical slab door that we might use, it might behave in such a way that lets me see what's going on. So no route here. Make sure I actually I'm suspicious that I haven't added this this parameter. All right, there we go. Now I think I'm seeing it happen. So this blue line here that I'm seeing, I believe, is representing my route now, and that's what was happening before. I didn't have my little test statement here turned on so that the operations would function. So there's a couple of things about this that concern me. One, I'm seeing the route inset on the door as it exists at this particular size, rather than at the size I want the door to be. So I'm wondering if maybe rather than having the route inset a little bit right here, I should actually just have it sort of written exactly the way that we had it written last week. And I'm thinking that because I'm using the edge extension parameters, the operations as they exist on the door by default should remain, and then the edges of the door should actually extend out, which is really precisely what I want. So I'm actually going to change this so that I'm not reducing the route's size at all from where the door's width is. And I'm going to comment out the old values that I had. And I'm replacing X and Y with 0. So I find that when I'm working through something, trying to figure out like what's working, what's not working, it's very valuable to save the values that you previously tested out, and it kind of helps you check back and forth. And normally I really recommend only changing one value at a time as you're troubleshooting this. Those of you who have operated edge banders, I apply the same sort of concept to UCS troubleshooting as I do to like working through dialing an edge bander in, right? The first thing you do is actually turn every single station off. And as you process your parts, you try one station at a time until you figure out where the problem is, right? If you change too much at once, it becomes very difficult to see precisely where the issue was. And so generally speaking, just change one value at a time if you can. But I know exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm not really testing, so I'm going to go ahead and take all of this out at the same time. So my route is now at the exterior perimeter of the door like we would expect it to be. And so really at this point, what I'm kind of thinking about doing is just taking my slab to like a nest rather than taking this 5-piece door to the parts machine that I've got. We'll see. So here's my door. I'm at 30 3/4 by 15 1/8. So I'm definitely oversizing, which is good because my finished size that I've got drawn here on my assembly is 30 1/2 by 14 7/8. So the oversizing that I did is working. And if I just nest this, I'm kind of curious to see what I got. Looks like I've got 2 routes going, which is definitely what I'm after. And this one I can simulate because it's just my nest. So I believe that's the route that I added, and that would be so that would be probably my trim route along with my added route happening there. I'm gonna start that over. So I'm kind of wondering. That would be the actual outline. Okay. So if you watch over here, I'm just gonna kind of explain what I'm seeing in case you're not seeing it. That right there was the cut. That first route that we're seeing happen right now. This is the route that I have added with a UCS that is inset from the outside of the door. And the order of operations is wrong here because this also includes a trim cut, which would not actually happen if we followed the process through. Ah, you're absolutely right. I really could. I could definitely see which is which a bit easier if I did that. But I think I can see here relatively well. Once this tool finishes its second pass, you'll notice that right over here, the line is going to get a little bit wider as it actually does what will be what the door thinks is its outline cut right now, which is actually oversized. So now we're taking more from the bottom here, and as it wraps around, we're trimming a little bit wider. So that's definitely the outline cut that we were expecting to see there. So that's working. It seems like it's working fairly well. So if I were to actually cut this part out, it would be meaningless for a lot of reasons, obviously. But just want to verify. 362. Can I not go over to metric in here yet? Yeah. So 6 millimeter like boring distance from edge of door to edge of hinge bore is our standard. So we definitely have everything kind of like in the right spot here, I think. Yeah, definitely, Tristan. I know, and that's intended. What we're actually, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Let's actually check that out real quick. Because you're right, that would be both a door and an SD slab, and that would make a lot of sense. So what Tristan's saying in chat is that because I have the UCS written to target everything while I'm trying to just test this out, he thinks that the door itself, the slab door over here, which is both a DOR part in a way, because you can like dim operations, I think, to doors, and also the SD slab part, that it's actually getting duplicates of the exact same route, which makes a lot of sense. It makes perfect sense. So let's see if we get this route happening twice. What we should see, if Tristan's suggestion is correct, is now we should see this. Yeah, absolutely. So spot on, Tristan. Good call. That will definitely help reduce the confusion as we work through this. So the double route, before we were actually seeing what is considered to be the outline of this door slab, was because we were targeting both the door part and the SD slab part. They both existed at the same time, so it got twice the operations, which is kind of interesting, actually. So we've kind of proven at this point that at least some about this is possible, right? Without really being able to actually do a machine simulation test or an actual part test, I'm not going to be able to take this all the way through to a place where I would say, definitely this is possible, but I think we can actually get this a little bit further along regardless. So did not mean to go there. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to enable this to work on everything again, because I want to, because basically I'm not really sure what category of part this sort of fake slab that gets created is. And I can't really look in the object tree here. I'm guessing it's just an SD slab part, but I don't really know. So, um, I'm going to be totally honest. Seeing what I'm seeing right here, I actually trust this perfectly. I really do. I would probably take this out to my machine if I knew that my post was good, and I would probably run this really without any question. My guess would be that this is going to work pretty much perfectly. So what we're seeing here is a door that's definitely oversized. And we're seeing the milling operations exactly as we would expect them to be for the hinges. But we're also seeing a route here inset by the amount that we decided we wanted to trim the door by. So I think basically we have proven at this point that we could modify what we did last week just a little bit. And rather than having the outline, well, really the outline didn't even go anywhere. I didn't change the placement of it or anything. Um, all I really did was oversize the door. I think that's actually the only difference here. Um, which is sort of surprising to be really honest. I was almost positive we were going to run into something that would prevent this from working, and I'm kind of curious. I'm going to ask David if he wouldn't mind giving this a test on his setup to see if what we're thinking is happening is really happening. I I don't know, it's kind of exciting. It's a really small thing that would eliminate an entire process that to me, like if I was the shop worker, honestly, it will kind of stress me out knowing that I had to offset the machine, but mm, that might just be kind of specific to me. I'm so bad about remembering to do things, and that seems like something that I just feel confident I would forget to do. But anyway, so here we are. Um, I guess this part of the stream is over. So I'm probably gonna try to keep the streams shorter. We've been going like 2 hours plus sometimes, which I don't really mind, but I think that it makes it a little bit more difficult to consume when the stream is so long, and I think it makes it a little bit, in some ways, less interesting, in some ways more interesting. But um, I'm gonna jump into what I'm kind of working on a little bit right now, and I'm gonna push this a little bit longer today, maybe go another 15 minutes, and just kind of poke a little bit at what it was that I was working at yesterday at the end of the day for the organization that I work for. And so I'm gonna be a good responsible human and go turn those off, since really they're just testing. So my stream title is a little misleading right now. I'm working in version 12. Once it became apparent that 2022 was not going to be developed any further and it wouldn't be usable for us, I I, I just took it out. So it's not something that I'm streaming with right now. I'm in version 12. It is what it is. But what that does mean is I have a functioning system that we use for production, and so I can actually show you a little bit more about what it was that I was talking about, or what it was that I was working on and why. So, just a short little tidbit of information. The world of closets. I don't know that there's any standards for anything that any of us do, first of all. I've been spending some time on the Reddit cabinetry forum, and the types of outlandish claims I hear some people make about what are standards. I'm just gonna say, any of you guys listening that are on the Reddit forums, you should stop saying everything that you do is standard, because it's really not. Because it's just not. I'm sorry. Everybody does everything so differently. It's probably standard for your shop, but I think the only kinds of things we can really call industry standard are the types of things that are defined in like books, like the AWI books, and that's a standard that is respected generally. But to say that somebody like staples and glues X part together as a standard, like that's industry standard practice, is really, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a false statement. But having said all of that, one of our standards for the closets that we tend to build are the depths. You want to go, for us, we typically want to intrude into the room as little as possible with the cabinetry. Um, don't waste the space. It's already, closets are already so small. So, we try to build in such a way that allows the space to stay open still, but functions. And so ultimately, 12 inches would be like our typical closet section depth for hanging clothes in. And if we were going to build like drawer units or hampers or something like that, we find, and again, this is just our standard, we find 16 inches to be a good depth. And for years, this worked. This was great for us. We have, side mount guides come in 2-inch increments. And so, like, 16-inch section would get 14-inch drawer boxes, and that kind of helped drive and define our standard for jewelry tray inserts. And, that size works really well with like hamper depths, typical hamper depths, and so on and so forth. So then undermount guides became a thing, which they've been a thing for many years at this point, obviously. But undermount guides became a thing, and if you're familiar with Bloom undermounts, at least, I'm not sure that all undermounts follow this, but I think they do. By and large, undermount guides come in 3-inch increments, and so we can get 12-inch boxes, 15-inch deep boxes, 18s, 21s, and there are some like 24s and 9s. We don't really offer them, but they do exist, right? So this created a problem for our standard sizing in many ways. And now, where we used to always do like a 16-inch deep drawer unit or a 16-inch deep like hamper unit, um, if you know very much about undermount guides, if you have a 16-inch deep cabinet box and a 15-inch drawer guide with undermount guides on it, and any backing in that section at all, I'm fairly certain you're going to have a collision. I'm not positive about the number. But basically, I think that this out of the way. I do have some things on here I don't want the stream to see. Just a second. All right, so basically, I might have to stop here in a minute. My kitty's getting a little bit cranky for food. But basically, if you look here, right, we've got cabinet depth, drawer length, runner length. And the runner is referencing the guide itself, as you can see here in this image. It's the runner length. So if I've got a, trying to put a 15-inch deep drawer box, the drawer guide itself is 15 and 9/16. And so if I've got a 16-inch deep section with half-inch backing, I now have a collision. At this point, my drawer guides are going to collide with my half-inch backing. And so I need to either remember to pull the backing out from where the drawers are, which, depending, some people are okay with that. Other people say they paid for backing and they want backing everywhere. And so So our choices are to just make all of our sections deeper when we use undermount guides, which now creates like two standards, which is okay. But or we could like route into the backs or something, which I'm gonna be totally honest, I think is a little bit kind of um I don't know that I would do that. I think I would probably rather establish a new standard for both side mounts and undermounts at maybe like 16 and a half or something rather than 16 if it were my organization. Um, it's not, and that's fine. So the way we do things is the way we do them. And so what has been requested of me as the person that kind of just works with the software, I manage the software for the company I work for, is I'm presented with this question. Hey, what can we do when, so and so is forgetting to change the depth of the cabinets and we keep running into these problems and we're having to modify parts afterwards, something like that. And to be completely honest, it's not something that happens. We are not running into situations where we forget. Our team of cabinet vision users is actually pretty good and they don't make that many mistakes. But every so often something like this can happen, right? And so what was requested of me was, or asked, was how hard would it be to make it so that when we put these 15-inch guides in 16-inch sections with backing, to just automatically project machining into the backs. And if we don't catch it and it makes it through production, at least it's going to work and we don't have to modify the parts. But if we do catch it, that's sort of like a flag. And now we can go back to the salesperson who can communicate with the homeowner and let them know, hey, when we did this originally, we showed you this at 16. We actually need to make it 16 and a half. Do you, is that okay? Just an approval on like a change order type thing, right? Nobody likes to get something they weren't planning for. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing next stream, since I've sat and talked about this for 10 minutes, is I'm going to be working on adding intelligence to my actual drawer guide model so that it kind of compares itself and its own length to the cabinet depth, the cabinet's unfinished back thickness, and just the conditions in general to see, should I turn on this primary operation into the back of the cabinet to route a hole so that the drawer guide can go through, or or not. And so anyway, that's probably what I'm going to be doing next stream. And since my cat is literally running all over the place right now and driving me nuts, I'm going to end this for today. And I'm going to, like I said, 2 weeks from now, I might even just do this next week. These are shorter streams. It's a lot easier for me to manage. I will let you guys know. But if not next Friday, then 2 Fridays from today, I'm going to go through the process of further testing on this. Or, if it does happen to be 2 weeks from now, I will probably have already tested my way through it and either implemented or not. And at that point, I'll kind of walk you guys through what I did and what I learned. So, a little bit of a different format this time. I feel pretty good about it. I don't feel as tired at the end of this, and honestly, this was a lot of fun for me to work through in general. I liked learning that little bit about that door, and I'm really excited to ask David to give this a try on his setup to see what kinds of things did I miss, what kinds of things am I not seeing here, and that'll be a fun sort of thing to kind of talk about anyway, because I think that might be a really good opportunity to demonstrate, if there are problems, how, even as confident as I felt about what I saw, how important it is to still test everything before you let anything go to production. You don't want to make 100 widgets before you realize they're all bad. So hope you guys enjoyed the stream today. Thank you guys. And I'm going to just check chat real quick. Yes, Tristan, you're absolutely right. I totally could. That would work just as well, right? I think the team wants the route I do. I think they want the route in there for whatever reason, and so I'm probably just gonna go that way. But I don't know. It's one of those things that is kind of like sometimes you really just have to operate within the constraints that you are provided, and so I'm gonna do what they're asking for. Yeah, that's exactly right. The way we do things is the way we do things. It really is. And I'd like to point out, like, I will really tease the people at my workplace a lot, perhaps a little bit unfairly from time to time. I'm just as stuck in my ways. I know that I am, but um, we could definitely stand to be a little more open minded. We do a lot of really good stuff, and I know that is true. We've got some really great standards, and I believe in them, but as I'm sure is the case with most shops, there are a few things I just kind of look at and shake my head about. And I would encourage anybody who happens to be in my position to try your very best to adopt a positive attitude about it. You're going to be asked to do things that you don't necessarily agree with. You can kick and scream about it and have a crappy time, or you can just give people what they're asking for and provide suggestions along the way. Um, I fought it for a long time, and I was really unhappy about it for a long time. And as I've learned to just kind of, my job is to be there and assist the way they want me to assist, not the way I want to. And as I kind of learned that, I've been able to be a little bit of a happier person, I think. And so, anyway, a little bit of life advice that most of you guys probably don't need, but it took me a while to find it, to sort of figure that out. And I think being in the position that I'm in and the position that most people managing software for companies that do the types of things that we do are in, you're you're gonna be asked to do things you don't agree with, and hey, as long as they're not unsafe or unethical, I think you should just do them and learn as you can. So, anyhow, thank you guys so much for coming today. Tristan, I'm still gonna come after you. I want you to get on here. We're gonna do an interview one of these times here in a little bit. Obviously, you are very capable, and I'm really interested to see what kind of stuff you guys are doing over at your shop. So maybe we could chat a little bit in the next weeks and get that interview happening. And otherwise, I'll see you guys either next week or 2 weeks from now. Thanks for coming.